Welcome, friends. We're truly honored to have you here with us on the Mourning Glory Podcast. Wherever you are on your grief journey, we hope to be a source of comfort for you and to help you know that with God, you are never alone. The Blessed Mother Mary is known to have appeared to people throughout history for various reasons, and as a result is known under many titles that commemorate life events like Our Lady of Sorrows, which we've previously discussed. But in today's episode, we are going to be discussing another one of Mary's titles that is related to where she appeared as an apparition, Lourdes, France. For more than 150 years, pilgrims have flocked to Lourdes. In fact, it is considered one of the most visited Christian pilgrimage sites in the world, drawing approximately 6 million visitors annually. But why? Why do so many make the journey to this small town in the Pyrenees? Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Mourning Glory Podcast, where we share our journeys of loss, faith, and hope. I'm your host, Jennifer Thomas, and I am so blessed to be joined today by two very special guests who are going to be sharing more about Our Lady of Lourdes and Saint Bernadette and their devotion to her. But before we begin today's episode, I would love it if you would be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. As we continue to grow what has become this beautiful ministry here at the Mourning Glory Podcast, we'd love to connect with you on Instagram or Facebook. And if you'd like to help support our show, you can head over to our website at mourningglorypodcast.com. And you can make a donation that will help cover the production costs or even check out some merchandise that we have. And all the proceeds from the sale of our merchandise does go directly towards helping us offset some of these production costs. And if you've lost a loved one and are simply looking for a place to talk to others who are also on a journey of loss, please be sure to check out our private online community by Mighty Networks, and you can find the link to that on our website as well. So with that being said, I would love to introduce our guests for today. I have Dan and Lauren Johnson here with me. Welcome to the show, Dan and Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's good to be with you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I am just so happy that you both are here today, and just how God has truly shown up in just bringing you both here, because this has happened really fast. And I am so excited that, God provides. And especially as we are getting ready to celebrate the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes. And I think our listeners are going to enjoy hearing about you all's devotion to Our Lady of Lourdes and to Saint Bernadette. So I'm just really looking forward to our conversation today.
So are we.
Yes, we're excited too.
Okay. Well, so friends, Dan and Lauren met at Franciscan University of Steubenville and both graduated with theology degrees in 2007. They were married a few weeks after graduation and moved to Alabama, and they now have 7 children. Dan began his career serving Catholic youth as a high school campus minister and later as the director of Family Life and Respect Life Office for the Archdiocese of Mobile, where he launched Alabama's first Archdiocesan Family Conference, which is amazing. Following his passion for storytelling, Dan co-founded 4PM Media in 2014 with Lauren's parents, Jack and Jamie McAleer, producing 5 feature documentaries and 8 film series that have reached millions worldwide. Wow, what an amazing thing. He also built the streaming platform Wild Goose TV, now with over 60,000 members. In 2022, he became president and CEO of 10th Hour Productions, a nonprofit film company founded to create original feature films and series streaming and theatrical release. 10th Hour's first narrative film, Bernadette and the Lady of Lourdes, is set to start production this spring here in 2026. Lauren, in addition to being at home with their 7 children, has worked beside Dan in various capacities in ministry and now in film as an executive producer for Bernadette and the Lady of Lourdes. Oh my gosh. You too. I mean,
it makes me feel old to be honest.
No, don't feel old. Don't feel old, because it makes me feel old too. I mean, I feel like we're probably pretty close to similar ages, but listeners and viewers, we're not going to give that information away, because we women, we're just not going to put that out there. So I guess my first question to you both is, would you mind sharing with us how you first came to know Our Lady of Lourdes and Saint Bernadette? Maybe just share a bit of that story with us.
Yes, I'll start because my grandmother, her name was Bernadette, and she loved to share with me about her story, about the story of Bernadette and Our Lady of Lourdes and her devotion to them. And so then I chose Bernadette as my confirmation sponsor. And in college, I had an opportunity to go study in Austria and with Franciscan. And I got to spend 10 days in Lourdes volunteering in the baths. And that was a very life-changing time for me, growth in my faith, being surrounded by women from all over the world who were coming in search of healing, and being able to help them by giving them, some sort of spiritual consolation by helping them in the baths and praying with them.
It's a very intimate experience.
It is. Yeah.
And so for anybody who hasn't been, I mean, you at the time, it's a little bit different now, but you would strip down. And so, to be in that moment with them when they're coming, broken, sick, in need of healing, with deep prayers, physical and spiritual. So she was right there in the midst of it.
Yes.
Wow.
And, just kind of thrown into it with other women who are volunteers from all over the world. And we had to communicate just through just our eyes and body language, and trying to serve the women that have come. And we would carry stretchers in with women and lay them in the water. It was it was really beautiful and humbling for me, and just a beautiful experience. So then we met a few months later and began dating, and he had an opportunity to go study abroad, and I said, you have to go to Lourdes. You have to go.
Yes. So there was no question. I was going to go.
In other words, there wasn't a choice. She said, you're going.
There was no choice.
Experience it.
Which was great. And the way that it ended up working out is I couldn't get any other guys to come travel with me. So I ended up going by myself.
Oh, wow.
And by the time the train got there, I had about 10 hours before I had to just kind of overnight and then jump back on the train and go back to campus. And I spent the night out on a park bench across from the grotto. So a bench across from the grotto.
Oh, wow.
And just, was praying and being present. And when I first got there, I got in the baths and then went and prayed and I felt spiritual unrest. Like something wasn't right. And at the time, I'm discerning. I'm in this relationship, but I'm still discerning, my vocation. And I felt like Our Lady was saying, like, you might be missing it. You should look at the priesthood and keep discerning. And so then I was jumping back on the train, just kind of angry. Like, that's not, my girlfriend sent me here.
Right.
This feels a little off. And so I was frustrated. But fast forward a couple of months later, and I'm constantly praying about this and thinking that hadn't shared anything with Lauren about that. And we shared a holy hour. So mine was at like 1 a.m, and then hers was sometime in the afternoon on main campus. And was in there that night and remember sitting there and just praying and ultimately saying, like, all right, God, and Our Lady, whatever it is that you want, that's what I'm going to do. Like, if that's what you want, that's what I'll do. And almost as soon as that prayer, left my heart, I felt complete peace. Wow. And the response, as close as anything as I could, and you see how it worked out. We're together. But it was in that moment, I think as clear as I've heard anything else in prayer, that the point was, that's what God wanted. That's what Our Lady wanted, is that our relationship, whatever comes from it, is not mine. It's not just because it feels good. It's not just because we have good chemistry. It's not because I'm a college guy and she's a pretty girl. Like it's more than that the vocation itself is so much deeper, and that's what they wanted. Mm-hmm. And so there was simultaneously great peace and relief that I wasn't going to have to.
We just had to give it all to our Lord. Like that's what we needed to do.
So that was sort of the genesis of our devotion, at least for me, and then the continuation of her devotion. But then fast forward a year and a half ago, I was there actually filming a documentary in Lourdes, and we're filming, and I'm
first time back since that.
Yes, first time back in 20 something years. And by that time, we have 7 kids, and much further along in life, and we're filming this episode, and the presenter's presenting, and I've got the script, and I'm going through making sure we're hitting all the points, and the grotto's behind him, a couple hundred yards away. And I look over, and the rosary had just finished, and there's this man, early 30s, and he stands up after the rosary, has this big smile on his face, and he grabs both his parents and gives them a big hug, and he has Down syndrome, and I just was immediately overcome with what felt like, and the best way to describe it's like a hug from Our Lady. Mm-hmm. That was the culmination of that moment when I was younger, where she was pushing me towards Christ and that sacrifice, to then now, and her sort of saying, like, this is what I had for your family.
Because we have a son with Down syndrome.
So our 8-year-old son, So our 8-year-old son, Isaac, has Down syndrome. And so it was this full circle moment of like feeling like she's always had Lauren and I and our family just kind of wrapped in her mantle. And then I left and said, this is a story I want to tell, even more than we have before. Yeah.
He's been longing to do some sort of narrative film, and it just felt like this call, this devotion, this story of Our Lady of Lourdes and Saint Bernadette
was the right place to start. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're working on now, is this feature film on Our Lady of, on Saint Bernadette and Our Lady of Lourdes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing testimony from both of you. And I say testimony because it's not just a story. This is your real life experience. And, when you were commenting about just feeling like, Mary had just wrapped her arms around you in a hug, like, I feel like I could feel that. And like you said, just such a full circle moment. And I love when God allows us to see those full circle moments and to have it happen in such a meaningful place for both of you.
Yes.
I'm just, I have no words for someone who talks a lot. And our listeners know, listeners and viewers know, I can be quite chatty. But, one of the things that, I guess I would like to follow up with is, Lauren, you said that your grandmother was named Bernadette. And so just for clarification, your grandmother's name was Bernadette. She was not Saint Bernadette, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just needed to make that point of clarification because I remember, there's a video that listeners I will link to that, where Lauren shared a little bit about her devotion. And I remember thinking, wait, there's no way Saint Bernadette could be her grandmother. But at the same time, I didn't know if there was a familial tie. But what can you share with us? Because I imagine since this is, like a narrative film, that there's a lot of research that you've had to do. And so I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you have learned during this process about Saint Bernadette in particular, and, the type of loss and suffering that she endured throughout her life? And, why was it that Our Lady appeared to her?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just that last part, why would Our Lady appear to her? She answered that. And she said if there were anyone lower than her, she would have chosen them. And so her humility, her poor in spirit, actual physical poverty, that she experienced, I think, yeah, maybe one of the things that I learned that ties into that, when with most of the saints, you kind of know the statue, but you don't really know the person. And even with the 1943 film, The Song of Bernadette, Bernadette is portrayed as very kind of dumb and and very pious and simple and all those kind of things. But when you actually read the sources and read her writing, what you find out is that she's very intelligent. She's just uneducated. That's an important clarification, because of the way that she communicated some of the quotes that come from her. You read it in a different light when you start to know the person. And so you start to see, actually, she's a 14-year-old girl who has these apparitions of Our Lady, who's questioned by civil authorities, by church authorities, who's even some of the townspeople, her own aunt slaps her at one point, telling her to give up this lie. So you see the pain of isolation, but then you also see in her courage and her faith to continue going and to continue answering the same things. But she also has a little bit of wit and humor, and she's very strong-willed, and that doesn't come across in some of the other representations of her. And that's something that we really want to show. She was a very, you think of contemporary saints like Mother Teresa. Everybody talks about Mother Teresa and how strong-willed she was. When she, wanted something, she trusted God, and she would go to powerful people and say, "Hey, this is the way it is, and it needs to be." Bernadette had the same level of confidence at a young age, which I think is pretty incredible. So the more I learned about her, the more I realized, this isn't. She's not simple. She's not afraid. She's not even overly pious. She's very strong, and someone that we can relate to. Interestingly, she's the oldest of the children, but even after the apparitions have happened, she loses two siblings.
Wow.
One as an infant, and then her brother Justin was 10 years old. So the apparitions were in 1858. In 1866, he passes away at 10 years old. So you have all of these miracles and stories of healings and all of this that's going on in Lourdes, and they're building the big church, and dedicating the chapel, and people are coming and all this, and she's the visionary. And in her own family, she has her siblings passing away because of poverty and because of lack of resources and all that. So we kind of dive into the question a little bit, why do some people get healed and others not? Why do some people suffer and others don't? And so that really, when you start to look at her, you start to say, like, okay, wait, she's somebody that everybody can relate to: isolation, suffering, pain. And then the hope and desire, though, that we see in her, that there's something beyond, that we're all destined for in heaven, and a mother who wants to, Lourdes is an invitation. Come in procession, come to me, all who are sick and hurting and, in the world. Anyway, there's so much to learn. I could keep going for a long time. So that's a lot.
I got time.
What I was kind of learning in the process. Yeah.
It's funny that you bring up the fact that sometimes we don't think about the saints as real people. And that's something that I've been learning. I've lately had, Saint Therese of Lisieux has been, she's become my buddy. she's become very close to me in many ways very recently. And when I started reading about her, very similar to Saint Bernadette, you start realizing that these are real people who went through real life challenges and struggles. They weren't these people who just had, these happy little lives, and they weren't just people who God made everything simple for. They do struggle and they do suffer, and they ultimately, some of them die because they're not willing to deny their faith in the Lord. And the fact that, you did have Bernadette, who, she was living in poverty, and yet all of these things are happening because of her. Like there wasn't any financial gain that her family received as a result of all of this. And yet she kept going. She didn't let it dissuade her from doing what I imagined she felt like she was called to do. So in terms of, Our Lady of Lourdes, and again, her feast day is coming up. So when this episode releases, it will be just a few days before the Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, which is on February 11th. What are some of the things that surprised you most about how your Our Lady of Lourdes has continued to be present in your lives?
Oh, I guess I've never imagined that we would be going down this path of making a movie.
That'd probably be the biggie.
We both graduated with theology degrees.
Yeah.
And didn't foresee this in our what we thought we would do in our.
Yeah, I would echo that. And then I think for me, the idea, from that first experience I had in Lourdes to then the second experience, a couple years ago, and now where we are, is just the idea that we have a mother who cares about us deeply, and is continuing to be present, and continuing to be, even when we don't think it. We have 7 kids, so I know that when my oldest daughter is off at school or on a trip, or next year when she goes to college, we're going to be thinking about her all the time, whether she knows it or not. And we're going to be, as concerned about her life as we were at any other point. And I think, I don't know that it's a surprise as much as it is, a reawakening to that fact that Our Lady, and particularly for us, I think Our Lady of Lourdes, that devotion, that she's always with us and watching and wanting to be part of our lives.
And actually, I never really thought about how in your first experience there, and she challenged you, and called you to rise up, and then the hug when she, when you went back, and that embrace of a mother, as parents, we do that,
It's as any good mother, right? Tender and loving and protective in her own way, but at the same time, everybody knows a good mom's going to look at you and be like, "Be the man you're supposed to be, be the woman you're supposed to be," and she's going to point you in the right direction and give you a little push. And I've needed a few of those along the way. So yeah, she's pretty good.
We all need some of those moments where we have people who do challenge us, and that's how we continue to grow in love and faith, is when we're challenged by the Lord and by Our Lady. And I think it's so beautiful, like as we're talking and seeing how you two are looking at each other. I just think it's so remarkable that obviously you didn't have this in your plans for your life, but God obviously did. And what I'd like to know is, at what point did you say, okay, this is it, we're making a movie about it? And now you're looking at each other like, who's going to answer?
Yes.
I think it's just like the walk of faith. I think it's every single day waking up and going, okay, we're doing this. Because it takes that kind of commitment to do an independent film, and films aren't, they aren't cheap. And a period piece filmed in France is certainly not. But I think the first time, I really considered it was when I was leaving France and we were filming the documentary. When I was leaving Lourdes after we were filming the documentary, and just felt like, this is, ever since we've started, I've started doing film. That's what I grew up on, and I love it. And I have always wanted, this was where I wanted to be, is to make a narrative feature film. But I wouldn't have told you 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I wouldn't have told you it was St. Bernadette and Our Lady of Lourdes. But I think the same, I felt convicted that this was the right story, and one for us that's personal, which gives us the passion to see it through, but then also something that's needed in the world, that can speak to a world that is hurting and
needing the love of a mother.
Yeah.
Wow. And Lauren, I'm wondering, because you said that you volunteered and helped people at the baths at Our Lady of Lourdes. So how did you even come about to do that? Because I know that there's some organizations out there that are always looking for volunteers to do this. How did you come upon that? And then is there an experience that you can think of in particular that was just one that really moved you while you were there?
Well, it worked out for me with the group with Franciscan. When we were on that campus, there was a friar there, Franciscan friar, that was with us, and he organized the trip and took about 10 to 12 students. But it was through North American Volunteers in Lourdes, and so they run all the volunteers that are from
the U.S.
From the U.S.
I think they're based out of Florida. They're still very active and still continue to get groups together to go do that. So and they lead their own pilgrimages that are a little bit longer, so you can serve as well.
Yes, and for the 10 days I was there, they moved us around. So we worked in the hospital there a little bit and served, helped clean. We were given various jobs every day. Some of it's a little bit of a blur. But the baths I do remember very vividly, because it was so unlike any experience I ever had before of serving others. Because it was so humbling to have to help them prepare for the bath. It's just a very vulnerable experience. And and I have very vivid memories of helping certain women who were very, the tears, the crying, just searching for hope and holding them and hugging them, praying with them. One woman gave me a bracelet that had a bunch of saints on it, and I wore it every day after for many years. I just gave it to our daughter for her confirmation because it was so special to me. Yes. And another very vivid memory I have is I was told that I could take a bath, because we were allowed to take a bath every day that we volunteered, before everyone came in. And I was told, you can take a bath in honor of someone else who couldn't come to Lourdes and pray for them specifically. And so I remember vividly taking a bath for my mom, who at the time was hurting various reasons. And I remember that was a very special experience for me. And I remember going to call her and telling her and trying to explain. And at the time she was like, "What did you do?" But now,
You took a bath for me?
What? But now she tells me still how much it means to her. That moment for her was a deepening of faith as well. So yeah.
Wow. I love that. And, for someone who maybe doesn't know anything about Lourdes or Our Lady of Lourdes or Saint Bernadette, where would you say they should start in terms of, trying to find information about either of them?
Yeah, first place would probably be the Shrine's website because there's a lot of information on there. And the English is all great. They have the English version of the website. So that's a great place. They also have the live feed from the grotto itself.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's daily rosaries and masses that are celebrated there. And so you can pull up the feed and pray, with pray live. So that's always kind of a nice experience if you can't go, especially. So there's tons of information there, information about Bernadette, about the apparitions, how many, when, all of the sort of details of that. So that would probably be the primary place that I would go. And then if you're looking to go more in depth, I would pick up the book Bernadette Speaks. It's not a novel. It's a book that goes in depth about sort of the details of the story.
Okay.
But if you really want to know her story, that's the one I would suggest. Then obviously, the Song of Bernadette, the film and the book, are great sort of intros because it is based on a true story. So there's fictional elements, but it stays true to the heart of the story of Bernadette, and is a great way to get introduced to her.
Yeah. So how did Bernadette pass away ultimately?
So she had cholera when she was young, and then tuberculosis is ultimately she had a tumor, tuberculin tumor in her knee, and then she was sickly all the way through. So she died at the age of 35, so relatively young, and had been sick in and out of the infirmary, since she was young, really.
Wow. It's amazing to me, like you mentioned before, how we think about when we have loved ones who are sick and we know someone else who has the same sickness, and sometimes we wonder, like, why, God, why did you choose my loved one and not this person's loved one, or why did you choose this other person's loved one to save and not my loved one? And I know that can be really hard sometimes, just that feeling of isolation and lament that we can have in our own lives, and just how, once we kind of come to terms with the fact that, it's not that God chose them over somebody else, that there's more to it. And sometimes we will never know this side of heaven what God's reasoning is for healing this person versus that person. And I'm thinking right now of a couple who just lost their son recently, and there were people all over the world praying for him. So listeners, viewers, for anyone who doesn't know, there was Micah Paul, the son of, or I'm sorry, Micah Kim, the son of Paul J. Kim, and I think his wife's name is Maggie, I believe. But the number of people who came together in prayer, and how powerful we as a Catholic community all over the world can be. And so when I think about how many people have gone to Lourdes seeking healing. Whether they truly are like healed from their ailments or not, I can't help but wonder how many of them are spiritually healed that we just don't even know about.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's something that's so personal. And, have you ever thought about taking your whole family to Lourdes, or is that something?
It's a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dream. The film production, since it will be in France, I'll be in France for 2 months.
Okay.
So we're hopeful that we'll be able to get everybody out, because we'll actually be filming over Easter. So we'll have a little break there. So we're hopeful everybody will get out. At this point, if not, then the next step would be for a premiere at the shrine.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. That would be incredible.
The shrine we've met with the shrine. The shrine is excited. The shrine let us go through their archives and look at all the stuff. And so we're hopeful that after production, we'll be able to do a premiere there, and then maybe that's the right time. So we're praying.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. 7 kids in school, 1 graduating.
Of course.
So the timing needs to be right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we'll
a
keep
lot
praying
of
about
moving
it.
parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Well, if you could only say one thing about Our Lady of Lourdes and Saint Bernadette to pique someone's curiosity, what piece of information would you share?
Oof. Oof. What do you think? I think what I would say is I love the humanity of Bernadette. But precisely because of the way it rubs up against the supernatural. It rubs up against the experience of seeing Our Lady, that somebody who saw Our Lady, had a taste of heaven, still struggled, still felt isolation, still had spiritual dryness at times. That if you want to see what it's like to really, truly journey to sainthood through all of that, which we all experience and all want, the story of Saint Bernadette is one of the best.
Well, there you have it. Well, thank you so much. I know I kind of put you on the spot there.
Yeah. No, it's great. You got to have your elevator pitch ready. So.
It's, as I sit here and I think about, people who I've lost and people we've had on the show, guests we've had on the show, because we've had a couple who have actually been to Lourdes themselves and have just said what a beautiful experience it is to go there. And I just imagine, this sense of wonder that someone might have when they see it for the first time. And even the idea of the baths, it's something that I think could be life-changing. And, if someone had an opportunity to go, which I'm hopeful to do. But again, it's all dependent on God, and whether or not it's His will and in His perfect timing, as we all know. But, I feel like there are so many stories out there that probably could be shared if somebody were to just ask. And I can't help but wonder how your lives are going to be impacted once this movie comes out, and also how many people's lives you all are going to impact as a result of this film. So I just think it's amazing what you're doing. And
thank you.
The fact that you felt such a calling. And Lauren, what was it about your grandmother besides the fact that she was named Bernadette? Like, did your grandmother have a devotion to Saint Bernadette?
She's the one that taught me about Saint Bernadette and Our Lady of Lourdes. She had a small grotto in her room, and I remember she would show it to me and talk about it. And my grandmother, for me, growing up, I just remember she lived a little way. She had 7 children. She was just always, I just remember moments of just kindness and prayer. Like I knew she was praying for us. So I was always encouraged by her. And we did get to take her, my parents and my siblings and I went after my 10-day experience in Lourdes. And I shared with my dad and my mom just how incredible it was. And so my dad wanted to get his mom to Lourdes. My grandpa had already passed away. So my grandmother was, I guess, around 80. We took her to Lourdes. And
wow.
And she got to, I have this vivid memory of her sitting in front of the grotto, with her devotion to Saint Bernadette and Our Lady of Lourdes her whole life, and getting to go and pray there and pray for her family and for her husband who had passed. And, that was very inspiring to me as well. Yeah.
Oh,
very
what a
special.
Beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another full circle moment. Your grandmother, who was the one who shared with you about Bernadette and Our Lady of Lourdes, and then being there with her.
And getting to go with her. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both for just joining us here on the Mourning Glory podcast. And one of the things that we like to do is we like to pray for the souls who have gone before us, or for anyone in particular who might be struggling right now, someone who's looking for healing, or again, anyone who you've lost. So is there anyone you would like us to pray for today?
Yes, to pray for the repose of my soul of my grandmother, Bernadette McAleer.
McAleer, okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you today for Lauren and Dan sharing their story with us and sharing these real life experiences, and how a huge part of this information and this devotion came from Lauren's grandmother, Bernadette. And we would like to pray for the repose of her soul today. Eternal rest grant unto her, O Lord, and let the perpetual light shine upon her. May she rest in eternal peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now our next part of our show is we like to ask our guests if they have a morning glory that they would like to share. And so for those of you who are new to our show, a morning glory is where we ask people something that maybe, started off as not so great, or was a season of mourning or loss or suffering, and you've seen yourself be able to come out on the other side of it, or you've been able to see, the glory or the resurrection after the death, so to speak, or just the beauty. So is there anything that you two would like to share with us today as your morning glory?
So our 5th child, Isaac, when we were pregnant with him, we didn't know that about his diagnosis of Down syndrome. And we actually prayed about and picked his name and before he was born. And so we picked Isaac Bernard, and we picked Isaac. I loved we love Saint Isaac Yogs, but I love the meaning behind the name. He laughs. And then we picked Bernard in honor of my grandmother, because I thought we were having a girl. So I was set on Bernadette, actually. And then we found out we were having a boy. And so we were like, okay. So then we went with Bernard, and then he was born, and we had the surprise diagnosis at birth. And, it was a moment, it's just very vivid of, we didn't know. And so it was a rough labor and delivery, the hardest, it was 18 hours. And so finally, by the time he was born, we were just holding him, and it was change of shift. So we weighed him, they gave him back to us, and they sent us to a recovery room.
And our pediatrician wasn't there.
The doctor had already left.
The doctor had already came for labor and delivery and then left.
Yes. And so then we were sent to a recovery room. And so I'm holding him, and I'm looking at all of his features and just looking how beautiful he is. But then all of a sudden my stomach started to churn, because I looked like I thought he might have Down syndrome, and I didn't know anything about Down syndrome, and I just was filled with fear for a second. And then I was terrified to turn to Dan and ask him if he thought the same thing. And so I looked at him, and I was holding him, and I was like, Dan? And he looked at me with these eyes, and he was like, yes. He knew. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had noticed those sort of markers earlier and wondered. She had just been through a very tough labor and delivery, and we're holding our beautiful child. Like, we'll see. But then when she looked at me, I knew what she was seeing, and I was seeing. So then we called the nurse in, and the nurse came, and the nurse, of course, was like, I can't say anything.
Right.
And then finally she did say, I see what you're seeing. And so then the next day, the pediatrician came in, and or the OB came in, and she confirmed, and
But because we didn't have the doctors rushing in to tell us, we got to pray and hold him and have these hours of just accepting, and whatever God's will was for his beautiful life, and
so wasn't it
for grace.
Yeah, the moment was so grace-filled and perfect, because we were able to do that together without any of those other distractions.
The fears coming in, all of the, all the tests that had to be done.
Right.
So then when the doctor came in, it was very much like there was, she was so apologetic and all these things. We're like, no, we're not concerned about the Down syndrome. We're concerned about the effects that are often associated. So is his heart, lungs, what is he healthy? The things that we need to, look at. And then, of course, there's the other question. So like the idea of loss, like the things that you sort of work through, is every parent has an idea of the way in which they hope their child's life is going to go. Yeah. And so you have to grapple with that loss. And the questions that you don't know is, how healthy is he? What's his future look? All of those things there's just so much uncertainty. Never a doubt of love or the beauty of our son who's right there with us. It's more like
we don't know
we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So it was an interesting there's a little story. Do you want to tell the Holland?
Either.
I'll tell it quick.
Yeah.
There's this story that's associated very often with Down syndrome.
And other special
needs, that this woman had said that it's like you jump on a plane to go to Rome, and you're all excited about Rome, and you have all these ideas, all the places you're going to go, and the things you're going to see, and all of this stuff, and then the plane lands, and you get off the plane, and you look out, and you're in Holland. And you're like, why am I in Holland? I don't want to be in Holland. I wanted to go to Rome. I wanted to see all these things and do all this stuff and all of that. But then you realize Holland's beautiful, and it has the tulips and the windmills and this, and you start to see and understand. So it's a very simple and honestly kind of surface level, but it does in the moment. You go, yes, okay, wait, I understand what it means. We had these ideas and expectations, and now we get to experience something really beautiful and unexpected for us and for our family, for other kids.
Yes. And it has. He's
incredible.
He is. He is. It's a daily challenge every day, helping him make sure he's thriving, but it's the growth that we've all experienced as a family and our children, and compassion for others has been beautiful to watch. And then to have that full circle moment for Dan.
Because he's named. I mean, so he laughs, which is generally speaking, children with Down syndrome are joyful. They have this great smile and laugh and joy of life. And but then Bernard for Bernadette and Our Lady of Lourdes and all of that just felt like, again, like Our Lady's right here with us, and then to have that experience, is special.
Yeah. So does he live up to the name he laughs?
Yes, he does.
He's also very stubborn.
And
but he is, if he gets mad, he is quick to turn to love. He is.
Yes. And also, it's something we didn't know, but we've experienced with him and heard from others is that children with Down syndrome are often very attuned to people's emotional. They're very emotionally aware. And so when somebody is sad or something, he'll come over and put his arm and lay, he's very attuned to that and sensitive to that, which is also really beautiful to see, especially with our other kids, the way he can sort of soften moments. It's great. It's really great.
That's very true.
I love that. He's teaching his siblings. Which I think is always beautiful. Well, Lauren and Dan, it has been such a pleasure having you here on the Mourning Glory podcast. One thing I didn't get to ask is, obviously you have a devotion to Our Lady of Lourdes and Saint Bernadette, but are there any scripture verses or other devotionals that really stick out to you, or any quotes from Saint Bernadette? Is there anything like that you'd like to share? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
That's great. The quote for there's two quotes that are great, but
that's
the quote
okay.
for the
You
film,
can say both.
We have two.
I'll say that.
You say both.
The quote that's sort of been a lot of the lens that we're viewing the film through as I was writing the script and all of that is, she said, I wish we knew the defects of the saints and how they overcame them more than the stories of their miracles and ecstasies, because that would be more helpful to me. And so really looking at it through that lens of understanding that we all have those obstacles and those things, those defects that we overcome. So that's really been a way that we're sort of looking at the film and wanting people to be able to relate to.
Yes.
Yeah. I go with that one.
Yeah.
I love that. Like that. I mean, and again, that brings it all back to that, how human she was.
Yep.
Yes.
The humanity that she had, and the fact that she was human, looking for more human aspects of these other saints.
Yes.
And I know that that's something, my children and I, we've been learning a lot about the saints over the past couple of years now. And, one of the things that has surprised them even is learning how many of the saints who passed away, especially the ones who were martyred, like how many were martyred. And then on top of that, how many of them were young when they passed away. And so, I think it strikes them more sometimes than it strikes me. And, and they help remind me. And I think some of the most powerful experiences that we can have as part of our faith are the ones that we experience through the lens of our children and just through other people. So if people would like to get in touch with you all or want to know more about the movie, where can they find you all?
So if they go to bernadettemovie.com, you can find all of the information there. We are still looking to close the gap on funding. But there's also more details about Bernadette's life, sort of the pitch deck of the film, which gives you more of the why behind the film and what it's going to look and be like and all that kind of stuff. So bernadettemovie.com.
And we will also be updating on Instagram, Bernadette Movie, updates with the filming, sharing different parts of it as we start getting into it all. And you can also light a candle on the website too for prayers.
Yeah, we do have a cool feature where you can go on the website and type in your prayers, and then we actually bring those with us to France and to Lourdes and light a candle for all of those.
Oh, I love that. That is such a beautiful idea. And oh man. And I have to say, I have gone to the website and I've been eyeballing a hoodie. So, so for everybody out there, they do have some cute merchandise out there. And am I correct that the purchase of the merchandise, that some of that, is that going towards production?
Yeah, all goes to the movie. Yes, all goes to the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so listeners and viewers, that is BernadetteMovie.com.
Yeah.
BERNADETTE movie.com. So, well, thank you so much again, Dan and Lauren.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer.
This has been such a blessing. And I know that the people who are able to watch and listen to this episode are going to be just as blessed by everything that you shared. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For having us.
Yes.
All right. Well, listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us here on the Mourning Glory podcast. We hope that you'll continue to find comfort and support on the shows that we bring you, as we are all continuing on our journey to one day being reunited with God. Mm-hmm. I'm Jennifer Thomas. Until we meet again, God bless. Thank you for listening to the Mourning Glory podcast. If you'd like to hear more episodes, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and most other podcast platforms. You can also check out our Facebook and Instagram pages at Mourning Glory Podcast, or send us an email at mourningglorypodcast@gmail.com. That's MOURNINGGLORY podcast@gmail.com. Until we meet again, God bless.